Yonti Chembor Sordan Himi Jang, Zone Monum Chembor Gata, Takar Targam Gondo Sherman, Stumbate Jejan Laki Jamsar, Nijar Sergi Jankans, Jawarti Shano Yella, Jemembazo Jala Sora, the Gonja Toban Pora Shinji Lo, Gonja Toban Pora Shinji Lo, Gonja Toban Pora Shinji Lo.
The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficulty encountering billions of eons. I now see it, hear it, receive it, and uphold it, and avow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the Supreme Bodhicitta. If you did not receive the oral transmission from yesterday, then you should try to receive it from your Khenpo or Khenmo. Otherwise, I don't have time to repeat it.
Gunde Zentak Jabber Laga, Tirkit, Soratam, Jondan de Shanchu Sanwa, Shambalan, Dirkit, Garsato, Shamba, Rangavia Tama, Bala, Shanchu Sanwa, Parcher, Legi Jibber and Yerte, the Dole Shanchu Sanwa, catching the Legi Jibber, Zapper Shadow, catching them Peril Shadow, Shamba Zayan, Shanchu Sanwa, Tricipon, the Dole, Shanchu Sanwa, Nieshi, Legi Jibber, Chung, Le, Di Dribam, Chava, Rangavia Tama, Giver, Gang Yemba. 대덕은 종치당 종들당 름보치 나쪽덕도 개바당 름보치 런 릭첨보 나쪽덕도 개바당 콩조아당 예덕종아당 세럽당 탑람 개바당 시밤년바당 반비용무보 보섬 초바당 냥지 제와당 지바당 따나 득바당 개와라 머쫌바당 용던 레바당 쇼바담바덕던 여로 너도 릭나 쪽래 랍도 숑네 거라 정메 바블라나메 바양도 버조버 샹츠브지 랍도 근도 종장 점버 셰테 리당 쪽라양 도나 곰바당 낙초당 웸티 닐 네머 텐장 니바당 거르트문도 버 제르테 스탁도 쏜장 랍도 쏜라 셈친지 쇼발란 지발람 케바 상응당 땀줄람 케바 무고무베 고알 함동람 케바 Popa, Chigba, Mepa, Tagdan, Yoro, Zong Mazaba, Toba, Dedok, Sandijim, Tadang, Sandijim, Shinji, Lapin, Kur, Jibo, Tagla, Chur, Tonjang, Devjin, Shirbe, Sombum, Dordedan, Ayan, Gir, De, Ayan, Nyambi, Dedan, Londo Tambir, Dedan, Tsipjapir, Dedan, Chetu Jopir, Dedan, Langir, Dedan, Toba Jopir, Dedan. Dertav shungwer de dan kevi rapkir de dan shindir gibi de dan matav shungwer de dan tanlam babar de do taglar popran gyoro de shan ter shan chu sanhwa tablam keba nishibo gang yemba de da logon gi long jo cham kwambo long jo ber ger de logon kege mo dam kwambo kege mo le 추지 남정도 더 상치부 지 조정 제외 담바데 더 샘진 근락 지된 직불 መን겨로 샘근의 지된 직불 መን겨로 샘근의 지된 직불 መን겨로 데르 상치부 선화 탑람 맘케밤 종으로 여러 강연 바데더 너 게와 쿰레 네장 포베 데스터더 머타버 기오 망보 더 시브르 시테 데더 데더 담비 춘점불 መን겨로 너끝도 양 차르 시테 Kidna Rungur Pope Churtumber Sheke, Division Shabik Somba Mayano, Chuji, Chunda Keki Rangur Shiba Yano, Keki Chu Gang, Tambaten Ramzo, Jondo Shiba, Yendi, Keki Ndala Makiber, Shawa, Keki Ndala Kiber Shawayan Mayano, Ramur Shawayan Medo, Ji Zerde, Der. Semchin Mambo Tak Chuji Namjando, Pong Shete, Dirker Maybe Keo Mambo, Dumbale, Lobran Yoro, Nderkut Yang, Gerlon Tedar Nerve, Jimbala, Soba Zanzan Kando Shoba, Yindium, Dole Shongadang, Darwale Shonwe Chu, Mertondo, Dona Chumayimba, Dona, Rumdro, Shawa, Mahiji, Zerde, Steve Lombo Tedar, Lubber Mebakan, Chiang Ronga Tedar Tamchet, Sanji Jibka Yimber, Tester Meshi so. The dog did give Shingi Labia, Gerlon Chunzamba Tedar Pong, Shibi, Chuji Pong. Gerve lem gumber and dosheto, Chuji Pomber and Gerve lem gumber and doshibe, Lobertomer and Rover and Gero, Shamba Tertavina, Shansu Sanwa, 담비 추근도 중원도 배 탑람 개별 시arte 진이장 샘천 무바타다 바테다 공초위 샘미티버 랍도 중원을 시하고 대립 좀든지 주상주성화 전부 시험발란들 그지 꽈르도 좀든 상주성화 전부 시험밴들 그지 꽈르들 그지 소르도 좀든데 ndrtate ngabja tama la tambi chur nambarin jig bitse janjib sanwa shirb charwa tedgum jongren girde pubayang sora puba la mubaryang mabje jang zong jang sora gerlong chun zambar namji chula yang sim jimbr sheba no ngum sar lagso jondende huirna mulala jigi chap mugam chumba gam sole chap sarwa la de der hlaca urte chap sarvar samde di ni wambo chap de namne dagni ki nombr ulur machete ndartar kema chundona Namo ji chablar kyun dogba semso jomdende tela sanji jimti chuji tsirndo popo gerlong churmawa kang lagba tedagna chabmukam chombagam tsu chirta jindaf tawar gyogo jomdende ngabja tamabala shanchib sangham jongren gerwa namna jirtar shibi ramjin janji mo chabmukam chombagam tsu nangda hlatsa vorne chab sarwa 대 차블라 균 독밥 진데 시름 처리 랑진자 대덕 추 마와 대덕당 추마와라 심점르게데 선 쇼네경 대덕래 추지로 차르 셈데 더니지 nombre 올로르 마치드네 나비 공보 균당 담베 게르노 춘즘바 대덕라 스타장 캬떡 솔라 ndrkut ndrtr gerlong churmawan dadagna niba mambu sunjongayno jimchirte gerlong chumtawa dadagna chuji ro sun jinjang chirwer surde kyoni ndorjam chim chiwer sem lakso denep jomden de jishan chusan hwa chimbo shambala lakso jisha jene shamba lakso chirtir chirwa mansur jan kyon tamcha tamchara kyoki shapanda hui de lakbar meso shamba janya rdio ji na popa tamchadna sanji ji somba ribr shawo je kanjena shamba ndartir ter popa tondan damba yengi tondan mardamba mayono chu tondan damba yengi chu tondan damba mayono tondan mardamba mayono nyomowa zabr shiba yengi nyomowa perur shiba mayono nyangen debi yondan dang payon tonba yengi korwa nipan perur shiba mayono shamba gyujibo dedagdang danar popa tamchad sanji sombre ribr shawo shamba gerlong ma gerhnin ma sayang rongte jibjibon dadak popaga popran jerwa kanongte dedagla rigjiwo mo tapajanji dedak sanji ndashibr sha shngund ndabr shibr kibr shine tambi chumnyambr shawo te chijirjina shamba lagbrme bakang jeronga dedak tamchidna sanji ji khson yimbi shero shamba te la kanzag rdang yishirdan dadagna sanji ji khson mayano ji Pupabjibo tedag pongwa tedag la magi babki brsheba tena sanjiji khsung bir pupa tamchir pangwa yende chur pangne chuji pongren gerwe le ngombren dubshebe na ngasong don jron gero shamba tertabe na rigjiwo mo kang tapa jan kang chuji pu pongren gerwe leji le yongsi 조런 도be ganzgla rdangwi chular dangwar mafsha wo ganzglardan ve chulardan ona mafşak.
Now let us continue with our class on Sutra on generating the supreme aspiration of bodhicitta. Previously, we've already studied that the Buddha told the Bodhisattvas on how to abide in right mindfulness and eradicate all the inappropriate actions and all the actions that are not in accord with the Dharma. And then Maitreya Bodhisattva addressed the Buddha, saying that, World Honored One, at the end of 500-year Dark Age, are there going to be only these 60 Bodhisattvas who are fettered by the karmic obscuration? Because at that time, there were 500 Bodhisattvas. So Maitreya Bodhisattva asked, are these 60 Bodhisattvas that have lots of negative obscurations and are fettered by such? Or are the rest of the Bodhisattvas also going to have lots of karmic, negative karmic obscuration that would fetter them as well? The Buddha then told Maitreya Bodhisattva, saying that at the end of 500-year Dark Age, there are Bodhisattvas who are going to be fettered by their negative karmic retribution. Out of the 500 Bodhisattvas, the 60 Bodhisattvas, indeed, they have the different levels of karma, or negative karmas, rather. Just like all of us sitting here, some of your karmas, some of you have more negative karmas and some of you have less. So there are people who, through practice, have pacified their negative karma, and some of them, because they have not engaged in practice, therefore their negative karmic retribution have grown. Not only it hasn't decreased, it has been growing. Just like everyone sitting here, though we're living in this Pure Land-like practice center, I believe the majority of you are practicing, contemplating, and studying very diligently, and in terms of upholding your precepts. Majority of you probably have pacified lots of your negative karmic deeds, karmic retributions from your alaya, but there are still some of people that have not pacified their past karmic retribution. Rather, their negative karmic obscuration have been growing. There are such situations like this. And then the Buddha told Maitreya Bodhisattva, saying that the 500 Bodhisattva, in fact, according to the Tibetan version, it says 60 Bodhisattvas, but the Sui Dynasty's translation also says 500 Bodhisattvas. Anyhow, the 500 or the 60 Bodhisattvas, out of which the 20 Bodhisattvas, they have less karmic obscuration. Look at the 500 Bodhisattvas, out of which 60 of them went to see the Buddha in person. And then out of the 60, the 20 of them have less karmic obscuration, not too severe. And then at the 500-year Dark Age, they will again reborn in the Saha world. This is a prediction that the Buddha was giving them. He said that they will again come to this world, and some of them will be reborn in cities, some of them will be reborn in the villages, and some of them will be reborn in markets, large bazaars, or some places where lots of people would have their businesses done. And some of them will be reborn in remote areas. So the 20 of them will be reborn in different places. The majority of them will be reborn in noble families or well-known families. They will have great merits. they will have lots of power and blessings. In fact, power and blessings are very important in terms of the appearances or wealth or eloquence. Well, if you have merits in all those aspects, it would be really wonderful. We can see that there are people who indeed have lots of wisdom. Today, I saw a video of a little Tibetan child was taught by a Tibetan teacher, and it doesn't matter how the teacher was trying to teach him, and he just couldn't understand. I think I told you back in 1987, I used to teach the Chinese how to speak Tibetan. And Pongsu Rinpoche asked me to teach them. I remember I was trying to teach them the Tibetan alphabets. I tried to teach them Gaka Ganga, and then they couldn't repeat it. It doesn't matter how hard I try to teach them, they just don't know how to pronounce it. At that time, I also had a tiny whip in my hand, so I would show them that if they don't work hard, I would beat them. But I remember he tried very hard, but couldn't pronounce that. The most basics of the Tibetan alphabets. At that time, also, even now, let it be the lay practitioners or monastics, I think because of the differences of the merits, then everyone's place to live, or their family that they're born into, or the time that they were born, or the parents they have, the social classes and so on, are all very different because of the difference of their merits. For example, if the Buddha were born in a low caste, then I don't think people would be able to accept his teachings as easily, because I think it's human nature that they want to look for the ones who have more, who can provide more benefits. These 20 bodhisattvas, when they take rebirth, then at that time they will be reborn in noble families, and they will have lots of blessings and powers. They will be very smart, full of wisdom and skillful means. At the same time, their minds are very soft and gentle. There are people who are born with very coarse heart as well as very rude, and there's really not much you can do, because it has something to do with your previous merit. These bodhisattvas, however, they have great kindness and lots of compassion, and they have the heart of benefiting the others, and their actions and minds are all to benefit the sentient beings. I believe people sitting in our audience, there are people like that too. Wherever you are, in fact, you are driven by your previous karma. You can't really pretend your karma and your merits. There are people who naturally just have auspicious connection to Buddha Dharma, and there are people who don't. Anyhow, the 20 bodhisattvas will be born with great appearances, eloquence, as well as very proficient in any kinds of craftsmanship. Talking about craftsmanship, it includes all kinds of crafts and skills in this world, as well as astrology and astronomy and geology and chemistry, as well as history, biology, whatever kinds of knowledge that we have in this world, they will be very proficient in. They naturally would hide their merits and abide in the meritorious action of dutta, that is, ascetic practices. they would practice pure actions wherever they are, whichever family they were born in, and wherever they will be born, they would abandon such a kind of family or renounce from that kind of family life rather than practice the to accumulate provision for the Anattaka Samyak Sambodhi. Because of their previous merits, they will have rather very little karmic retribution, karmic obscuration, and they would protect the correct dharma even at the cost of their own life. They enjoy practice and abide at quiet and secluded areas with great diligence. In fact, the 20 Bodhisattvas would be all really great. Just like a master, a teacher, a Dharma teacher would love to have these 20 Bodhisattvas as their students. Otherwise, if a Dharma teacher has all the students who have difficult karmic obscurations, then it will be very difficult to tame them. And then the 20 Bodhisattvas are compliant to sentient beings in order to benefit them. They understand the actions and the minds of the sentient beings so that they can benefit them. Their actions are all pure. They practice mantras as well as are very eloquent in any kinds of speech. Over here, it also says that they would get a whole picture of the knowledge simply by a little bit of information. Just like when a smart person would look at the title and right away they would understand what this whole thesis is about. Because they're very good at understanding. Even through very little bit of listening and contemplation, they would understand a lot. They would gain great wisdom. They're full of wisdom and eloquence. These bodhisattvas are like such. The Buddha then said that in any kinds of lifetimes, they indeed have already acquired all the merits, and they have diligently practiced as well as attained all dharanis, as well as attained the unhindered eloquence. If they can give teachings to the great assembly without any difficulty, they can give teachings to of the correct dharma to all of them without any hindrances, and that on one hand is based on the power and blessings of the Buddha. The translation over here, according to Buddhi Ruchi, is a little bit different, but it means blessings. Because the 12 bodhisattvas with the blessings of the Buddha, they understand all the 12 volumes of the sutras that's taught by the Buddha. Our audience sitting over here, you can imagine, take the time and imagine if you were to just hear the title or listen a little bit of the sutras and right away you can understand all the sutras that's taught by the Buddha, then wouldn't that be great? But I think all of us definitely need to spend a lot of time to understand the meaning of the sutra. Or if you were to give teachings to the others on the sutra, you have to have the unhindered eloquence. If you have the ability of studying and give teachings to the others with eloquence, you should understand on one hand it is because of your previous virtuous karma, your merits that's accumulated in your previous lives. On the other hand, it is definitely because of the blessings that's bestowed by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and your gurus. You should acknowledge that. Otherwise, if you were to think that I have great wisdom and great eloquence, it has nothing to do with the blessings from the Buddha, then I think it is too self-centered. Just like how in the West, the students would think that they worked very hard to acquire the knowledge and the teacher has nothing to do with it. They have no heart of gratitude towards the teacher, but everything is very egocentric. According to the Eastern tradition, according to the Eastern culture, in fact, in Buddhism, we say something very different. We would consider that everything that we have comes from the help from all aspects. For example, I have a healthy body. It's because of the condition and causes that's provided by the parents, as well as the previous meritorious karma and the blessings and protection from the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and the Nagas and 8 classes of Rakshasas and so on. The Buddha then said that the Bodhisattvas will practice diligently and gain proficiency in the 12 categories of scriptures, including sutras, that's the brief and condensed teaching that's given by the Buddha directly, or the melodic verses, that's geyas, as well as the predictions or the revelatory accounts, the vyakaranas, as well as the 2 to 6 lined verses composed by the Buddha, that's the gathas, and udanas, the special verses, as well as nidanas, the rules codified by the Buddha for those who are ordained. Also, the avadanas, teaching of the Buddha given with examples and metaphors, as well as ancient narratives, that's the Itivratikas and the Jakatas, the Jakata tales, that's the past life accounts of the Buddha, and the Vaipoyas, the extensive teachings, as well as the miraculous accounts, and the Upadeshas, the decisive explanations. So those were already taught extensively in the past in our previous classes. So I'm not going to be too explicit about this. Then the Buddha said that all the bodhisattvas will gain thorough understanding of all the 12 categories of the scriptural teachings without any hindrances. Out of the 60 bodhisattvas, the 20 bodhisattvas received this kind of prediction from the Buddha. I'm sure they were very happy, but I'm not sure about the rest of the 40 bodhisattvas. I remember that whenever it's time for the awards ceremonies, I noticed that people who receive awards are very happy, and the ones who do not receive awards, they tend to get quite upset. But look at the Buddha. I'm not sure if the Buddha actually chanted their names, but the Buddha said that out of the 60 bodhisattvas, the 20 bodhisattvas will gain great understanding of the 12 categories of the scriptures, as well as being endowed with great merits. The Buddha then continued to address to Maitreya Bodhisattva, saying that the 20 bodhisattvas who are fully endowed with great skillful means will receive teachings, will receive infinite numbers of teachings from monastic acharyas. They will be able to receive teachings from their lineage teachers, lineage masters. They will receive the immeasurable hundreds and thousands and immeasurable numbers of scriptural teachings, and they will be able to uphold all of them. After upholding the teaching, they would make such statement. Over here, what it says is that the Bodhisattvas will be very clear about where they've received the teachings. For example, you will remember where you've received the teachings of the great Tripitaka. You probably received it from so and so place. Therefore, the Bodhisattvas would address, saying that I have received this teaching from so and so monastic acharya. I've listened to it myself without any doubt. They have a lineage. They have that kind of lineage of studying and oral transmission. I think having such oral transmission is really great. Ponsu Rinpoche is like that too. He places great importance of oral transmission. If people have not received any oral transmission from other great teachers, then it doesn't seem very legit. I remember there was once a great Khenpo who's a great self-learner, and he once went to Ponsu Rinpoche saying that, well, I have studied this sutra myself, and it's really wonderful. I want to give teaching on this to the others. Ponsu Rinpoche said, do you have any oral transmission from other masters? He said no. And then Ponsu Rinpoche just didn't really make any comments and didn't give him the permission. Well, I am sure there are people who are very smart. They can gain knowledge through self-learning. But because you don't have the oral transmission, then, for example, if you were to give others the teaching on the Diamond Sutra, then your audience would ask, where have you received the teaching of the Diamond Sutra? And if you were to say that, I just read it myself, and if I were to say that to all of you, you probably won't want to listen to my teachings anymore. So it's quite important to receive the oral transmission from the lineage masters, because if you listen to the oral transmissions from the lineage masters, you will receive the pith instruction from the lineage masters through the teaching, without which the teaching won't be reliable. So you should give teachings to the others when you have oral transmissions. There are times I, in fact, also give teachings that I do not have the oral transmissions, but I uphold the kind of attitude that I'm studying it together with all of you, because there are teachings that doesn't necessarily have oral transmissions. Anyhow, over here, it means that it would be beneficial to the sentient beings if the teacher would receive the teachings from their lineage masters and then give the teachings. That would be more beneficial. Nowadays, I notice there are people online and in different places. They would say that, oh, I work with so-and-so Khenpo, and therefore I have all the oral transmissions, or therefore I can give teachings and so on. But sometimes they're not honest about such, and they're just using it to bluff and to generate fame, so that they can magnetize people to listen to their teachings. There are people who only give teachings because they want to gain fame and they want to gain some kinds of benefits. So with such kind of hidden agenda, they are not able to benefit the listener, the audience. Just think about people who have such kind of intention of gaining fame and benefits. How can they, in fact, listen to the teaching from their masters with great diligence and attentiveness? They probably are not attending classes to gain the understanding of the sutras anyways. In this way, if we cultivate such kind of people, it could definitely destroy lots of the followers' faith. That is inappropriate. We should pay attention and be aware of that. And then the Buddha told Maitreya, saying that Maitreya, at that time, when these bodhisattvas are teaching, in fact, their propagation of the teaching are quite successful, but there could be some so-called bodhisattvas, the monastic and lay practitioners, so-called bodhisattvas would be listening to the 20 bodhisattvas. And while the 20 bodhisattvas are propagating the teaching, these so-called bodhisattvas, since they do not have any wisdom or skillful means, they would slander and they would feel jealous of the teaching of these bodhisattvas, and then they would try to create obstacles for these bodhisattvas. They would even say that they would even smear by saying that, well, all of these teachings are simply your own dualistic thoughts, and these are not the teaching by the Tathagata. Therefore, we should not receive the teachings from you. Therefore, we should not generate faith, nor uphold and receive the teachings. Throughout the process of propagating the Dharma, the 20 bodhisattvas would receive such kind of slanders. And some of those slanderings were spoken out directly. According to a sutra, it says that, in fact, other wild beasts won't be able to kill lions, but the ticks that's grown on inside lion's hair would kill the lions. What it means is that the Maras that's trying to attack Buddhism from the outside, from the external force, won't be able to destroy Buddhism or Dharma. However, it is the ones who look like or who would appear to be Buddhism disciples, they would use such kind of appearance to destroy the Dharma. This is part of the prediction of the Buddha. Look at our history. In the Chinese history, there are people who would say that, oh, this is a fake sutra, that one is a fake sutra that's made up by the mundane beings. In fact, they do not even have very profound reasons to come to this conclusion. They would only say that, well, this sutra is fake is because there's no translator noted, or the words that's used is very similar to the worldly language, and it doesn't really fit with the time that's back then. I think that's really inappropriate to just jump into conclusion like such without careful studies, especially if there are people who actually have lots of influence on the others. And then generation after generation, more and more people would slandering those genuine sutras. For example, at the beginning of the Shrangama Sutra, I've given 1 or 2 classes on why we shouldn't slandering those sutras. I think people without wisdom do not have the ability to observe which teacher is genuine and which one's not, or which Dharma is genuine, which Dharma is not. They would follow what the other people say. They would follow, because they have such herd mentality, they would follow whatever people do. If others say that, oh, this teacher is great, then they would listen to that teacher. Oh, we have an empowerment to go to, and then they would go. But they do not really observe and distinguish that with their own wisdom at all. If other people were to say that so-and-so teacher doesn't have pure action, and then right away they would slander the teacher without having such distinguishing wisdom themselves or observation themselves. They're like the grass that's being blown in the wind. They would waver their mind very quickly. Being under such kind of influence, this group of people would say that that, well, the bhikshu that's giving the teaching is not practicing or upholding the precepts of the bhikshus, and they would give teachings on the wrong views. They do not teach according to the sutra. They do not observe the precepts that they should, and they're only putting up a show, just like how the like actors. So they started slandering such kind of people by saying that they do not practice in accord with the Buddha's teaching, and they do not teach in accord with the sutra, and they do not carry out their actions according to the precepts. Rather, they are only performing teachings such as the actors or actresses or the dancers, the entertainers. So they started slandering such kind of teachers in the way that saying that they are only performing rather than truly being the teaching. However, this sentence is not stated in the Tibetan version. It is included in the Sui dynasty translation, though. They would also start saying this to the others by saying that you should not generate any faith towards this kind of teacher because these teachers do not teach the correct Dharma. How horrible it is. In fact, if we can develop wisdom and if we can observe our own and then distinguish the situation with our wisdom, then even if everyone started to slandering the Dharma, we won't waver at all because we have developed a certainty in our view. Just as I've always quoted from Rintawa's verses, he said that even if tens of thousands of bodhisattvas appear in front of him in the space, his mind will not waver. If you can develop such kind of insights, then you won't be like the kind of fools that is described in the treasury of aphorisms, where it says that the wise ones could distinguish and observe on their own, but the foolish ones would follow what the others do, just like the old dogs would bark, then the rest of the crowds of the dogs would also bark. So it means that we should not develop the kind of herd mentality just like dogs. Look at the stray dogs in our monastery. If one dog started to bark, then the rest of the dogs started to bark as well. Just like that, if one person started saying that this is inappropriate and that is not right and started slandering someone, then there are people who would follow him and started to bark after him as well. Especially nowadays, we are in this age of internet, which could be quite horrid in terms of creating negative karma as well, because people don't have time to make their personal observation, and they don't have the ability to make personal observation in accordance with the truth, and they don't want to. So they would follow whatever others say. This is such a rare time of history. So in the future or now, if people started slandering the others, I think it would be the best for you to investigate yourself. Because without investigation, even if you hear something, even if you see something, it would be the best not to share it with others yet, because you need to then make a thorough investigation. Don't share with others right away and trying to get others' approval or compliments. Don't gossip behind others and started to spread the rumors saying that, oh, so and so did this and it was horrible. You didn't know that? When you hear that, you should respond by saying, okay, okay. I don't want to talk too much about that. I should go take care of yourself. I think we should have this kind of ability to control ourselves. Otherwise, if you spread the rumor that you hear or start gossiping after others, then it would be like what the Tibetans would say. Once you speak the language, once the speech has already left your mouth, then it's like a person stepped out of the gate of his or her own country. Then just like once a person steps out the gate of the country, then that person could travel to any place in this world. Similarly, if the language or if the speech left one's mouth, then such kind of speech or words would be spreaded to everywhere in this world. Especially nowadays, this is the age of internet. You can post anything on internet, and then once you post it on internet, the whole world would know it. Recently, a Tibetan boy who got really popular online from the Litang County, many people paid lots of attention to him, many praised him, and many criticized him. I don't know the causes and conditions behind that, behind his popularity. People like his appearance, people like to see him riding on the horse and all of those. Not sure if he will be able to be popular for a long period of time. But right now, he is considered as the influencer online. Popular overnight, and all of a sudden, everybody got to know him. But then, just like how this age is, people would forget him overnight as well. I'm not sure if you know this, but a little while ago, there was a boy who looks just like Jack Ma, the famous, successful entrepreneur in China. And then that boy, because he looks exactly the same like Jack Ma, he got really popular. At the beginning, it was easy to see him, and after he got popular, it was very difficult to take pictures and see him again as well. So this is how our age is. This is the time that we live in. People get popular overnight, and they can be forgotten and abandoned overnight as well. News nowadays are like the waves of ocean. The old news would get covered up by the new news every day. So let it be a piece of photo, let it be some speech that you're spreading. It could get circulated very quickly online. It could be good speech, good photos, good ideas, or it could be distracting ideas and speech. If you were to praise someone, or if you were to slander or humiliate someone, that could influence thousands and tens of thousands of people. The young boy from Litang County said that there are over 1 billion people watching him or following him. And I thought, wow, why would that be? I believe there must be some kinds of special causes and conditions behind that. Anyhow, online or offline, in fact, all the speech, all of these kinds of relative world phenomena, we should see it with the transcendent wisdom. And once you are able to, once you're able to look at this world from that perspective, then you'll be able to see that everything is no other than a water bubble. Of course, that's more of a deeper way of looking at this world. Previously, The 20, previously we've already studied that this 20 bodhisattvas will be giving teachings, and then there would be people who would listen to their teaching and then started to slander them and criticize them and propagate and to advertise their faults to the others. And then the Buddha told Maitreya Bodhisattva saying that in fact all the audience who would be slandering them are the fools that's blessed by or under the influence of the Maras. That is why they cannot understand the Dharma. And because these people slander the Dharma and created the negative karma of destroying the Dharma, they're under the influence of the Mara. For such reason, for such kinds of the causes and conditions, these group of people will definitely be reborn in the three lower realms. Sometimes, I'm not sure, but sometimes there are people who would listen to classes from different masters, different Dharma teachers, but then out of jealousy or out of ignorance, they would, or out of other reasons that's unknown, they would start to slander the Dharma teachers that they've listened to before. I think for the male practitioners, it's a little bit better, but inside the female practitioners group, I noticed that they tend to change and they would stay in certain teachers' class, certain Kumo's class, listen for a little while, and then after listening to the classes, they would start to slandering them and to find faults in them. This is quite horrid. You should, for those of you who've done that, you should definitely confess diligently. Otherwise, you would stay in lower realms, in three lower realms, or even hell realm for a long period of time. So confess diligently. And then the Buddha told Maitreya Bodhisattva saying that the Bodhisattvas with wisdom and skillful means, in order to protect and uphold the correct Dharma, should then hide their merits. So the Buddha said that if you really want to protect the correct Dharma, if you really want to propagate the Dharma, then you should not slandering the Dharma teacher, you should not humiliate them, and you should not praise your own merits. On one hand, you should not talk about how wonderful I am or my teacher is, which is what mundane beings tend to do, because they would generate lots of dualistic thoughts and they would think, they would start to talk about how terrible the other master is, and then sometimes they would even make up and lie about that they knew certain masters and they were terrible people, so on and so forth. So that upon saying those, the people whomsoever heard those kinds of slandering would generate wrong view. The karmic retribution of such is really terrible. Well, initially, as Buddhist practitioners, according to the Theravada tradition, according to their precepts, it says that we should protect the minds of the sentient being. To protect, on one hand, your own mind, and the other hand on the other's mind. So we should try not to generate or try not to put impetus for the others to generate wrong view towards the Dharma teacher or generate wrong view towards ourselves. Because if you were to make others to generate wrong view towards yourself, you as a Buddhist practitioner, they would also think wrongly in terms of the Buddhism tradition as well. So in such a way, you would directly or indirectly destroy their virtuous roots. Over here it says that you have to protect the sentient being's mind, especially the ones you have connections to. If you cannot protect the minds of the others, then you won't be able to tame them. Of course, even if you can't tame them, that's okay. But if you cannot protect their minds and even contribute into the generation of the wrong view in their minds, then they will definitely falling into the three lower realms, and that's quite a pity. Therefore, our actions can generate great influence to the others. According to the Vinayas, it says that the reason of creating the Vinayas is because the Buddha do not want the sentient beings to fall into the three lower realms. And for those of you who studied it, you probably already know if the sentient beings generate the wrong view or some negative dualistic thoughts, we ourselves would carry lots of the negative karmic retribution as well, and this is quite horrid. So whenever you do something or talk about something, you should keep that in mind. You have to protect the minds of the others. According to Bodhisattva Charyavatara, it says that the kinds of actions that would cause wrong view in people should be abandoned. I used to quote from this, and Pongzul Rinpoche used to quote this often. He said that whenever and wherever you would go, you would first to get to know that place, the custom, the culture, and wherever people would generate wrong view easily. And then you should abandon the actions that would cause the others to generate the wrong view or not generate any faith. And you need to observe those with your own wisdom. If you really couldn't, then just ask the questions. And you can ask, well, so how would people feel about Buddhism over here? And what are the things that people like about Buddhism? And what are the things that people would cause people to generate wrong view? If you get to know that certain clothing could cause the others to generate wrong view, then you shouldn't wear them. And if you get to know that a certain language would cause the others to generate wrong view, then you shouldn't speak of those. In the precepts, in fact, it says that within any crowds, within any community, you should dress appropriately and you should speak of the appropriate language. You have to be responsible for your own conduct and speech. If you're not too sure, of course, you can ask and you can get to know them. And you can try to see what are the actions that would benefit them. In this way, then your speech will be able to protect the minds of the others. Otherwise, if you don't get to know all those, your speech and conduct could harm and even destroy the virtuous roots of the sentient beings. We have to learn to protect the minds of the others. Online or in large cities, nowadays people sometimes would say that, oh, the monastics, how could the monastics do so and so? And then they would say, well, you're Buddhist, why did you do this? And then you know these are the kinds of things that the people over there wouldn't be able to accept. The precepts that's made by the Buddha, in fact, sometimes it's not because those things are, those actions should be abandoned because they would cause negative consequences. However, it is because if people don't practice in this way or the practitioners don't practice in this way, that could cause the others to generate the wrong view and destroy their virtuous roots. Therefore, it became part of the precepts, so the practitioners would protect the other's mind, without which your actions could cause the wrong view inside of the sentient beings and then lead them to be reborn in the lower realms. I'm sure people who study precepts would understand this. Over here, the Maitreya Bodhisattva then seems like my iPad is dying.
10%要多少？
10% of battery?
够吧？
Enough?
今天忘了充，然后
I forgot to charge.
充是充了，但是呢
Well, I did actually, but the plug fell.
还有多长时间？
How long do we have?
应该够吧，是吧？
I think it should be enough.
这样的这个
Okay, so Maitreya Bodhisattva then says to the Buddha, saying that, how rare, world-honored one, at the end of 500-year dark age, the Bodhisattvas do not have any wisdom. Rather, they would slander the upholder of the correct Dharma.
还有这个陀罗尼呢，就是他去求。
And
他自己呢，就是是
they would seek for eloquence and dharani.
然而这个法呢，就是不能
However, they cannot have the capacity to receive the Dharma, the correct Dharma. This translation is a little bit difficult to understand, but I think the Tibetan version is easier to understand. What it means over here is that at the end of 500-year dark age, there are bodhisattvas do not have wisdom. They would seek for eloquence and dharani from the Dharma teachers. At the same time, they would slander the correct Dharma as well as the upholder of the correct Dharma, the teacher of the correct Dharma. This is quite rare, just as there are practitioners who would listen to a class from a Dharma teacher and they want to gain eloquence and again the accomplishment of dharani. At the same time, they would slander and humiliate the Dharma teacher who would give them that. So Maitreya Bodhisattva felt this is quite rare. This is so strange, he thinks. The translation is a bit different, but I think it could be explained in this way. The meaning is the same. Therefore, for such reason, since they slander the Dharma and slander the teacher and humiliate them, how can they receive the teachings of the correct Dharma? How can they receive what they seek for, which is eloquence and dharani? And then Maitreya Bodhisattva told this metaphor. This is a great metaphor. Recently, I've been attending lots of meetings, and then in one of them, I asked the Khenpos and Khemos to write diaries every day from 2021, and you can write it for a whole year. Some probably thought that, well, I don't really do a lot of things every day. We don't really have anything to write. In fact, it's not true. You can write things such as this metaphor that we're going to study. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a meeting, doesn't have to be anything that significant, but you can write down whatever touched you on that day. It could be a teaching, could be a verse, it could be a metaphor. So in 2021, I really call upon all of you to write diaries. And then if we're all alive by 2022, I'll take a look how many of you would be able to complete a whole year of diary, and then I will give you awards for those of you who finish it. I've written diaries for 4 years already, all the way from 2017. If my life continues, I really want to keep this habit and keep writing. It doesn't really have to be a lot. You don't have to write a lot every day. I noticed some of the people would copy or would practice calligraphy for 800 words every day. So if we can also write down how we spend a day every day, this is really wonderful. If you write something very meaningful every day, then at the end of your life, this could be your autobiography. If you live for 100 years, you have an autobiography of 1 year. You don't know the rest of your life. People don't know the rest of your life, but they would be very clear about at least that 1 year of your life. The autobiography, I think many people are writing them. The celebrities and the people from different walks of life, they all write autobiographies. I once also collected this set of writings of autobiographies of the Buddhist practitioners. This is really meaningful to keep those records. I think it's quite necessary as well. Okay, let's get to the metaphor today. This is really interesting. The Maitreya Bodhisattva then at the time said that just like there are people who get really thirsty and want to drink something, he saw a spring or a pond, and he was ready to drink from that water or pond. He then got there first, and then he threw his own feces into the water. I'm not sure why this person is so silly and would throw his feces into the water or pond after knowing that he's thirsty. But then he would drink the water after throwing the feces into the water, and then he would think that this water is terrible, it stinks. He himself polluted the water. But then this person would start saying that the water is gross, it's disgusting. But this is his own fault. Not only this person does not acknowledge of his own fault, he would generate aggression and aversion towards the water or the spring. Not only that, he would start to advertise to the others and saying that this water from this pond is disgusting. You should not get close to this at all. And Maitreya Bodhisattva said that such kind of pond should be known as the teacher of the Dharma, the bhikshu who upholds the Dharma, which was pure at the beginning. With the blessing of the Buddha, in fact, the water pond, that is the Dharma teacher, has full capacity to propagate teaching and to give teachings with the pure Dharma. But the foolish people who threw his own feces into this water pond and then drink this water and then think this water is really filthy are just like the audience bodhisattvas who are ignorant. As I said earlier, there are people who go to the Dharma teacher to seek for the Dharma teachings, but then they would start slandering the Dharma teacher. Just like in the previous metaphor where we've learned this person threw his own feces into the water, but then started to saying this water is polluted, this water is disgusting, not knowing that he himself polluted the water. I think this metaphor is excellent, and you should watch yourself and see if this is something that you're doing. Are you the one who's polluted the teaching? Are you the one who's polluted the water? And then blamed it onto the others. There are foolish people like this in this world. After slandering the correct Dharma and the upholder of the correct Dharma, they're just like the ones who polluted the water and then drank such water without knowing, with such kind of mind of pollution, they would drink this water or take this correct Dharma. and humiliating on the Dharma teacher, rather, to blame on the Dharma teacher. And then on top of that, they would laugh at, they would humiliate the teacher, and sometimes would proclaim that such kind of polluted Dharma, such kind of Dharma that's full of faults. These kinds of foolish people cannot listen to the Dharma, and then on top of that, they would seek for the shortcomings of the Dharma and the teacher. These group of people who cannot listen and not able to uphold the Dharma, not only they would seek the faults of the Dharma and slandering the Dharma as well as the Dharma teacher, even humiliate them. Eventually, they would generate the mind of aversion and abandon everything, then depart from the Dharma teaching. In fact, this is a great metaphor over here. I really hope that each one of you would take the time to contemplate upon this metaphor. And I hope our audience over here who listen to this teaching would not engage in activities or actions like such. You probably think this is way too foolish. Why would people do that at all? You probably think that how could people who are thirsty and then throw their own feces into the pond and then drink its water? That's way too foolish. But this is exactly how foolish it would be for those people who seek for the teachings and then abandon them, and not only abandon them, but to slandering them as well. The Buddha then said, good Maitreya, such kind of a great metaphor is great. I almost forgot about this metaphor. But when I remember this metaphor, I think this is a great metaphor. Then Buddha said that this metaphor is really excellent. This is a perfect metaphor, and no one can seek any faults out of this. Because the meaning and the metaphor is just perfect. So no one can find the faults in such metaphor that you've given, Maitreya. Then the Buddha told Maitreya Bodhisattva, saying that with such kind of causes, there are 4 kinds of eloquence. In fact, according to the Tibetan version, it is a little bit different. It would be the best if it's separated into 2 parts, in fact, because previous content has already ended over here about the metaphors. Anyhow, so let's follow the Chinese translated version. Over here, the Buddha said that Maitreya, with such kind of cause and conditions, one should know there are 4 kinds of eloquence, and that's taught by all the Buddhas. There are 4 kinds of eloquence that's stopped by all the Buddhas. This 4 kinds of eloquence that's stopped or abandoned by all the Buddhas, in fact, is not in the Tibetan version. It is in the later part of the teaching you will see tomorrow, where we will talk about the other 4 kinds of eloquence that should be abandoned. So what are the 4 kinds of eloquence then? The first one is that the eloquence that has to be in accord with the benefit of sentient beings. If it is of benefit to your own practice as well as for the sentient beings, then that is the kind of eloquence. If it is not in accord with the benefit to the sentient beings or to yourself, then that is no longer eloquence, that is manipulation. It is not of benefit to anyone. The second one is the eloquence that is in accord with the Dharma. Those are the eloquence, for example, the eloquence that is in accord with no self, impermanent, and so on. Those that in accord with the Dharma, or the ones that's not in accord with the Dharma are not eloquence. For example, taking what's impure as pure, taking what's impermanent as permanent, no self as self, and so on. The next one, the third one, is that the eloquence that's in accord with the extinguishing of the affliction. In fact, miraculous powers are not the most important. Rather, what's really important is to eradicate the afflictions. Even if you dream of your teacher or bodhisattvas to give you blessings and so on, those are not necessarily eloquence. Rather, if you were to, if your afflictions are extinguished, those are eloquence. The fourth one is the merits that's in accord with with nirvana, then that is eloquence. But the ones that would put impetus to more life and death that are not eloquence. Maitreya, those are the four kinds of eloquence taught by all the Buddhas. Then the Buddha continued to say that Maitreya, if there are bhikshus, bhikshuni, upasakas, and upasikas, and the ones who want to give teachings should abide in such eloquences. If there are noble men, noble women, want to comply with faith, then one should generate the mind of thinking of such kind of person as just Buddha, as their own teacher, and listen to such a person and thinking of them just as a Buddha. Should I finish this part? We've talked about this many times before. Whenever we receive teachings from a teacher, we should see that teacher as Buddha. According to the 10 chakras of Kshitigarbha Sutra, it says that one should listen to the Dharma with reverence and respect. Often, one should take deep faith and not slander. One should make offering to the Dharma teacher, and one should see the Dharma teacher just as the Buddha, just as the world-honored one. This is taught in the 10 chakra sutra of Kshitigarbha. And then the Buddha continued to say that the reason behind that is because those are the teachings given by the Tathagatas, and those are the truth, the words of truth given by all the Buddhas. So whatever the Dharma teacher is teaching are the words of the Buddha. Therefore, one should generate faith and respect. Buddha continued to say that Maitreya, if one were to slander these four eloquence, saying that those are not taught by the Buddha and not generating respect, rather they would generate aversion and start to slander the four kinds of eloquence. Such kind of karma would lead them to be reborn in the three lower realms. Therefore, Maitreya, there are noble men who uphold the pure faith. If they want to attain liberation and to pacify their negative karma of slandering the Dharma, if you want to pacify your past negative dharma of slandering the Dharma, for such kind of people, one should not generate jealousy or aversion towards the Dharma because of people. So, if you don't have a good connection with the Dharma teacher, don't slander that person in terms of Dharma. Don't say that, oh, that person doesn't teach well, just because you don't like that person, just because you are jealousy of the other person. Don't slander the Dharma because of that. One should not seek the shortcomings of a person and then generate the thoughts of faults or trying to find shortcomings of the Dharma. People have different mistakes, but the Dharma does not. According to Mipa Rinpoche, where he says that he is no other than an old dog that could spit out gold. He said that the great perfection, the Mahāti Dharma, is just like a pure gold. It is very precious. But while this teaching was taught by Phuntsok Rinpoche at the southern hill over here, you've been there, right? And do not generate aversion towards Dharma because you have aversion towards the teacher. So to the person or to the Dharma, one should not generate aversion. We should stop here today.
Tonani be jana panshi jar jirgana jirano chubai chubum zone joa joa